Hi, welcome to the first episode of Hoop Mentality. My name is Ashley Baskerville. I am so excited to be on this journey with all of you guys. I wanted, before I started to bring on guests and start really digging into all things sports psychology, I wanted to do an episode to introduce myself. This podcast has been a really long time coming. There have been a lot of bumps and turns along the way. So I'm super excited to finally get this going. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Ashley Baskerville. I currently live in Texas, but I'm originally from California, and I am obsessed with sports. I love the game of sports, and growing up, I played basketball and volleyball, and I did track, and I did cheerleading, and golf, and was really all over the place with sports, and really someone who was passionate about it, even when I stopped playing, even when injuries got in the way, really stayed passionate towards it. And my senior year of high school, I took a sports psychology class, and that class completely changed my life. Everything started to click and started to make sense. And I wanted to continue that journey. So when I went to college, naturally, I went into a sports psychology major. I got my undergrad and my master's at Cal State Long Beach. So go Beach, the only university with beach in its name, fun fact. And now I live in Texas. I teach resilience and mental toughness to soldiers, but I also own AB Mentality, sports psychology, and mental coaching practice. And I wanted to start this podcast to really start challenging the stigma around mental health in sports, challenging the stigma around mental skills. I think we talk so much about how to get players prepared physically, but we don't talk about how to get players prepared mentally. And at a time when you were seeing athletes begging, like literally begging for help, it's time to start talking about it. And I think society has pushed it off long enough. I think there are a lot of people who are constantly perpetuating the stigma that prioritizing your mental health means that you're weak, and it does not. It means that you are strong. It means that you are invincible. And that's really what I want to start talking about. So I grabbed a mic. Let's talk about it. What I do, so let me talk a little bit about what I do, is I teach mental toughness and resilience, which means that I teach things like, how do you be confident before you go into a performance? Maybe you just lost and now you've got to go out and compete again and you're doubting yourself. How do you shut that off? How do you bounce back from failure? How do you practice when you can't physically practice? How do you come back from injuries? If you've ever been injured, you know how traumatizing that can be, how much that can impact your confidence. I mean, we saw it this past season with LeBron James when he came back from his injury, immediately saying, hey, I'm never going to be the same again. And while that may be true, a lot of that is mental. A lot of that is him realizing that he is getting older, and a player who never really struggled with injuries before is now struggling with injuries, and how tough that can be. But if people don't talk about that part of sports, you're never going to know. And that is really my intent with this podcast. My intent is to have some fun, have some open dialogue. I have some really, really exciting guests lined up, not only just athletes, coaches, people that are agents and in finance and all different aspects of sports that we don't get to talk a lot about, and challenge the stigma that is mental health, challenge what we are talking about when we're talking about resilience in sports and the mental toughness of athletes in sports, and really discussing the game. I know the name of this podcast is Hoop Mentality, but we are not only going to be talking about basketball. I love basketball. It's my favorite sport. But with the Olympics coming up, there is a lot to talk about there. So breaking down what goes into preparing for something as big as the Olympics on a worldwide platform. What does that even look like? I'm going to talk about the rest of the NBA playoffs. I'm super excited for the finals coming up. I'll talk about my predictions in a second. But breaking that down as well, what are we seeing as trades happen? What are we seeing with the NBA Combine that just passed? And how mental toughness, how these players' abilities to train the mental game is going to have a huge impact on how they perform on the court. So I'm really excited for that journey with you. And what I did, instead of just coming up with stuff to talk about on my own, because I could talk for hours about sports, I went to my Instagram and I asked you guys to ask me, some questions. I have them on my phone. So I'm going to read off these questions, and that's going to be the first way we're going to start to get to know me a little bit better. So the first question I got was, how did I get into sports psychology? So I talked a little bit about the class that I was in, my sports psychology class. Another way I got into sports psychology was growing up, I was obsessed with Kobe Bryant. He by far has had the biggest impact on my career, my love for sports. And so I remember being little, growing up in Sacramento as a Lakers fan, which was tough. It was really tough showing up and being the only person in purple and gold in school. And I remember watching a game and they beat the Kings. It was in the playoffs and I was probably in like third grade. And Kobe hit a game winner. And I remember asking my dad, why is it that he performs so well under pressure and everyone else just crumbles? I mean, we saw it with Ben Simmons. You're the point guard and you're not even shooting. So what is it that you get someone who is like Kobe Bryant, who would take the ball? Devin Booker, I'm taking this shot. Kyrie Irving, I'm taking this shot, versus someone like Ben Simmons, who may pass first or who may not want to be in that spotlight. And I remember Kobe saying something along the lines of he lived for those moments. Those were the moments that he enjoyed the most, when the game was on the line and it was up to him. And so when I asked my dad what made athletes different, what made players different, he challenged me to figure it out. And so I dug deep into psychology and figuring out, how do we perform under pressure? How do some people love those moments and want to thrive under those moments, and other people are terrified of them, right? So I started looking into psychology. Then I finally took a sports psychology class my senior year of high school, and I never looked back. This has been a fun journey, learning exactly why some people perform better under pressure, exactly why some people bounce back quicker than others, why when the game is on the line, do you pass to certain people, right? So that is how I got into sports psychology, my obsession with Kobe Bryant. The next question, so I'll do these two together. What is the best and worst part of my job? So the best part of my job, hands down, is that I get paid to talk about sports. It really, truly doesn't get any better than that. I get paid to talk about something that I would be talking about for free. I can watch the game tonight and like record that for hours. So how cool is that to have to have a job, to have a career that's centered around something you're already passionate about? So that by far is one of the best parts of the job. The other part is seeing your athletes improve. My clients, when they are making progress, it is the most incredible thing. Not too long ago, I was working with a cross-country athlete, and he was telling me in his 5Ks, he just could not do it. He was like, I feel like I'm dying. I can't do it. But then at practice, he would tell me all the time, it feels like I can run forever. So I asked him what the difference was. We worked through it. And the next meet, he ended up PRing and meeting his goal, and just experiencing that moment, being in that moment with those athletes, being there with the parents sometimes at how excited they are about it, is truly, truly so rewarding. The worst part about my job is fighting the stigma of mental health. There are so many athletes I approach and I'm like, hey, so this is what I do. I'm a mental performance coach. And immediately immediately when I say anything psychology, they're like, I'm not crazy. Nope, I'm not crazy. And it's so frustrating because to work on your mental game does not mean you're crazy. It actually means you're really, really and you're really sane. You're really on top of things. You're the exact opposite. It means that you are proactive instead of reactive. So many people wait until it hits the fan and they want all this help. Why not do it ahead of time? So when you hit that wall, you're prepared to hit the wall. So that is definitely for me the worst part of my job is trying to teach people and talk to people about what I do without them getting the wrong idea. And that's why I'm so excited for this platform and the ability to do that here and hopefully start to change the connotation of we think about mental performance coaches and sports psychology out there. So the next question is, what's something I learned about myself from this job? I've learned so much. So some of the biggest lessons I've definitely learned from this career path, one, I understand myself as an athlete better. I didn't understand things like burnout. I didn't understand why when I was super, super nervous before a game, I always performed better. I didn't understand why when I was injured, why it was so hard for me to get back into the game after my injury. I didn't understand any of that. And now I have an understanding of exactly why I was the athlete that I was. And that's really cool to kind of get to look back at your life and things start to click and make sense that were very confusing and challenging for you. When sports ends for a lot of athletes, and especially for myself, it's really hard. You're really challenging and fighting with who you are. And so to be able to look back at my life and say, oh, this makes so much sense. Something else I've learned that is super important is recovery. I've always been a person that's like, go, 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 go. Like, don't stop, no breaks, keep going. And this career has taught me the importance of recovery, the importance of sometimes just taking a break, sometimes sitting in silence and really meditating in life, and sometimes sleeping in, sometimes saying, I'm not going to work out today and I'm just going to stretch, and realizing how important that is, not only for my physical health, but my mental health, and understanding for myself that even now, like my best ideas, my best work come from when I take some rest. And it's similar to playing sports. Your best performances are going to come after some rest. And that's why you see all these athletes getting injured now, because their bodies didn't properly get to rest. But our minds also need to get that time to rest and recover. And we can't just be go, go, go all the time. So that's also something I've learned from this job. Let's see, a few more questions. All right, who's winning the NBA championship? I think it's going to be the Suns. I think, I'm really excited for this. I have been a fan of Devin Booker since he was in college. Seeing Chris Paul, I'm really excited for the Suns. I think they're going to take this series. What I'm really interested to see the next couple of games is if the Clippers are going to repeat what happened to them last year and essentially just kind of giving up. And everybody made the jokes about like, oh, they're just going to Disney World, they're going fishing or, whatever. But it was really, from my perspective, looking at sports from a mental state, it was really interesting to see the Clippers essentially give up last season. So I'm interested to see what happens with that this year. Are they going to give up? Are they going to fight? They could definitely still win, but they've got to want to win. So I think it's going to be the Suns. I hope the Hawks do end up beating Milwaukee. I think that's going to be a really good series, and I'm really excited to have some special episodes geared straight at that topic. I think the next question was about the Olympics. Yes. So who am I most excited to see at the Olympics, and what are my favorite sports? I am most excited to see the greatest athlete in the world right now, Simone Biles. Like, She is incredible. Her ability to continually raise the bar and her response of, I'm competing with myself at this point. I don't think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's any other athlete in the world right now that they are literally changing the sport to fit how great they are because they know no one else can actually compete. And that doesn't mean that she's going to win every gold. I know the uneven bars are not her strongest, even though she's getting really good at those as well. But even watching the trials and just seeing how high she can fly in the air, and to see like her trial, not only does she have Tokyo Drift playing in the background, she opens up with 2 moves named after her. So I'm really excited to see Simone. I'm really excited to see Gabby Thomas. I've been following her on TikTok for a while. Her and her fiance are both going to the Olympics. Well, he'll be going to the Paralympics. She'll be running in the Olympics, and I'm super excited to see them. I am excited for the women's U.S. basketball team. I am always excited when I can see women's soccer play a little bit. I know that's not as big of an event. What else? I'm excited for a lot of things in the Olympics. The sports I'm excited for. I'm excited for some of the new sports. I went to school, like I mentioned, in Long Beach, so I spent a lot of time at the water, a lot of time in Huntington Beach. One of my favorite things to do during the summer, especially when I was a nanny, was take the kids to the U.S. Open of Surf. If you've never been, it used to be a lot of fun when I was in college. So I'm really excited that surfing has been added to the Olympics. I know there are new swimming events. I'm always excited to see swim. I am become the most patriotic person during the Olympics. I'm like all USA out. I'm so excited for all of the sports, and I think we just need it. Last year was rough. COVID was rough. And to have to go through it without a lot of sports entertainment, we deserve this year. We deserve the Olympics. We deserve that the Winter Olympics is next year, and so is the World Cup. We deserve this. And so I am going to soak in every single moment of this. And my last, a couple more questions. So what event is on my sports bucket list? I want to go to all the championships, all the ships. I want to go to Wimbledon. I want to go to the Super Bowl. I want to go to an NBA championship game where they win. I have been at a WNBA championship game when the Sacramento Monarchs won, and it was by far one of the highlights of my life. So I would love to see that at an NBA level. The Super Bowl, I think, however, is at the very, very top of my list. I would love to go to the Super Bowl. I would love to work the Super Bowl. So NFL teams, give me a call. But I think that would be my number one, followed by an NBA championship game. I also said it didn't have to be sports related questions. So my last 2 questions are not sports related questions. The first one is, how do I like my coffee? I have 2 big go-tos right now. So I'm really into iced coffee, especially living in Texas. It was like 100 degrees today and hailing at the same time. So I don't know how that works, but it's hot here is the point. So I drink a lot of cold brew, nitro cold brew if they have it. But even at my house, I make cold brew. And then my special drink, like my splurge or fun drink, I guess, is espresso shots, shaken espresso over ice with chai tea, brown sugar syrup, and oat milk. And then my final question was, what music am I listening to right now? I think with I won't say everybody else, but like most people right now, I'm really into Olivia Rodrigo's Sour album. I listen to it all the time, bond with my niece about it. I am really into her new album in Back of My Mind. Been listening to that a lot, especially when I'm cleaning, just vibing. And then a new album that I've probably listened to 5 times already this weekend because it's so good is Anthony Ramos's Love and Lies, which is a really great album. I am obsessed with his musical work. I've used obsessed a lot, but I really like his musical work. I've been watching a lot of In the Heights lately. Watched that a lot this weekend too. So I'm really enjoying his album. It's a really, really good summer vibe. So check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. So that was all of my questions. I think that's a good wrap up. I'm, again, really excited to be on this journey with you all. I hope that you continue to come along with me as we talk about sports. We break down plays. We have players on the call or on the line with me, and really just look at sports from a different perspective. If you're not already, make sure that you follow me on social media, all my platforms at AB Mentality. So that's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So make sure you follow me at AB Mentality. And if you are interested in improving your mental game, make sure you go to those sites, follow the links in my bio. I have a sports psychology mental coach workbook out called Champions Are Built in the Summer. Prioritize your mental health this summer and work on your game by improving your mental game. It is definitely what takes good athletes from being good to being invincible to being the best athlete that they can be. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for coming on this journey with me. Bye.